Okay. All set?
Good morning.
Good afternoon. Hi, how are you? Can you
Hello.
hear us well?
Both of us?
Yeah?
Perfect.
Okay. Great. So we'll have a small conversation on the InvestHorizon project and the accelerators in Europe. And we'll have a concrete example here. We have Joana Cartocci from Robeaute, which is a participant of our program. And let's see if you have any questions here, and if you can discuss a bit more about your experience in this program.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what is the InvestHorizon project? It's a European fast track to Series A investment funded by the EU. Now, any company that's had a seed funding from 250,000 or had a grant from over 500,000 is eligible to join. Now, this program lasts for 3 years. The goal is that over these 3 years, we help over 1,000 companies improve their investor readiness and get them in contact with investors. So the ultimate goal is through pitching training, through workshops, through bootcamp, through webinars, help companies become better at finding investors, meeting the right investors, and then our goal is by the end to have raised 500,000 to these companies. Now, let me first say a few, whoops. Okay, I think I've gone over this. Engage in the field of deep tech, right? And we have to be raising over 2.5 million per company as a goal, right? Now, just a few words why I'm very happy to be here. My company is EurA AG. We've been up about 20 years helping companies bridge new technology to the market. We're in Germany one of the leading companies of managing over 50 networks which joined startups, SMEs, research institutes, and it gets private or public funding. In my personal experience, when I was in the US, I worked a bit with accelerators, and I'm very, very happy and proud to be able to say that in Europe, I'm working with 2 of the largest public accelerators in Europe at the moment. So one of them is the EIC Business Acceleration Services, which I am the manager of. We have a portfolio of over 5,000 SMEs, and we help them get to investors and large corporations. Another program which we're also involved in, and we are very happy to be working with Bpifrance on this, is InvestHorizon project, where we are focused on Series A investment, helping companies from the deep tech sector mature into investable companies. Now, why are these accelerators so interesting? First, they are, let's say, non-profit, so they don't have a private agenda behind it. Secondly, they're open to European companies, which is always something that we can be proud of. And since we're working on the European level, we are able to provide, what I like to say, the protection and the guidance to companies that if they're alone in the market, they will be harder to get. If we have a portfolio of 5,000 or 1,000 of the best companies in Europe, we can go to the top investors and say, okay, if you want to get into our portfolio, then make sure that you provide good mentorship, fair terms, fair conditions, and help our companies grow. And this is a unique value proposition that you have on a European level. So, speaking of some of the most interesting companies or SMEs or startups in Europe, we have Robeaute, which were very kind to join us. And maybe we can go a little bit into detail of Robeaute. It's very interesting. It's basically a submillimetric micro robot for neurosurgery. Maybe you could tell a little bit about how this technology works and what are the applications.
Yes, thank you so much, Ricardo. So today I'm here to talk a little bit on one side about Robeaute and the other how we participated in InvestHorizon. So the questions that Ricardo is gonna ask me are gonna take us through it. Robeaute is a medtech company founded by Bertrand Duplat, who is his founder. in 2016. We started in 2016. The company was incorporated in 2017, and so for the past almost 4 years we've been working on the development of a submillimetric micro-robot to intervene inside the human brain to deliver medication in precise locations with 3D flexibility. So today, the limitations of neurosurgery limit the neurosurgeon's intervention in, for example, spread pathologies and in certain very important medical conditions. So we, as a company, we decided to target different medical conditions. We have a big platform potential, but we chose one specific application to begin with to overcome the regulatory barriers to begin with, and that is the glioblastoma multiforme, so GBM, which is the deadliest, the most rapidly growing tumor, brain tumor that affects 50,000 people per year around the world in 8 countries considered for these for the market assessments. And this first application was chosen because of its strategic value. On one side, because there is a real medical need, and that we believe that our technology can be of great help, of great use. And on the other hand, because the regulatory threshold is such a hurdle for technology companies, it's an application that was thought about for a long time. We have an extremely stellar board of KOLs who advised us, who we discussed with, and who set upon this last application with this first and last application with us. And so we're starting with the GBM, glioblastoma multiforme, to deliver medication in precise locations where it is needed with minimum invisivity of the procedure. And submillimetric means that its diameter, which is the measure that we're actually looking at here, which is the most important, and that allows for a minimally invasive procedure, since we're circulating in the extracellular matrix and not in the brain or in veins. Not in veins or in arteries. The EMC is a matter that is very plastic, and so the diameter is the measure that we're looking at to be less invasive. So the diameter is submillimetric, and that allows us to navigate in 3D wherever we want to go in the brain to deliver precise medication and collect in real time information that today we do not have. So the paradigm today of the robotics world is a probe that once it's left into the brain, it's off the radars basically, and it is activated from the outside. It switches completely this paradigm, and many of our advisors were very skeptical to this at the beginning because they didn't think it was feasible. Today, we have demonstrated that it is feasible, that we can activate, that we can motor this micro-robot, and we thoroughly believe that the communication aspect, the real-time communication aspect and the 3D mobility are main aspects that set us apart from any competition and something that has never been seen or done before. So our technology is disruptive, highly innovative, with great risk, and it has a very long R&D process. So this is what sets us apart a little bit from companies that were in the InvestHorizon portfolio, is that our time to market is longer, our development process is longer, and we envision a product on the market in 2026. So before that, it takes us to preclinical and clinical, and then regulatory approvals, FDA starting, and then CE mark, because right now marquage CE is a real headache for medical devices, and especially combined with biology. And then the go-to market in 2026.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. As I see, you started with, or as you explained, you started with a particular, well, let's say beach market to bootstrap the development. And you are further down the line, you are thinking of using this for other applications, right, if I understand correctly?
Yes, absolutely. So the idea for us was to target brain therapies in general. As the sentence says here, we want to light a spark in the imagination of researchers to propose solutions for new upcoming therapies where precision is required. And that is the real breakthrough with a microrobot in the brain. Today, the precision that is needed, the 3D aspect, free motility that is needed to tackle spread diseases is not reached and is far from where we want to get it with a microrobot. So the platform aspect is something that is crucial to us. We will start with GBM, with glioblastoma multiforme, and already the bar is very high because it's a pathology, it's a disease that is not treated today. I mean, it's treated, but it cannot be solved. The patient has 12 to 16 months to live when it can be resected. So when the best case scenario is that they have 16, maybe 2 years in some cases with new therapies, but there is no treatment. And so what we're doing here with GBM is taking a pathology that has that's a lower hanging fruit, not low, but lower hanging fruit when it comes to regulatory approvals, but also and especially one that is deadly and that has no solution, to actually try and help. But at the same time, we have a whole platform of tests that are going to be conducted at the same time for other therapies. We are looking into gene and cell therapy because we have the right volumes. The microrobot can transport the right volumes to specific locations in the brain and thus become a fundamental tool for gene or cell therapy. But it wasn't they weren't in the front line because nothing has been approved yet for gene and cell therapy, and because it's a fairly new world for the regulations and regulatory processes, and so it would have been a headache to actually be part of the evangelization process and educate the public onto what gene and cell therapy is, aside from the regulatory approvals. So we decided to go with a big bad guy that everybody knows and that unfortunately we were very familiar with. But as Ricardo was saying, we do have all these other, this big platform aspect, all these other pathologies that we're looking into now. Anything where precision is needed, the microrobot will be able to deliver. The microrobot, is at the heart of Robeaute's offer. But there is a very important aspect that I mentioned quickly earlier, which is the data collection, real-time data collection. As I was saying earlier, the only information we have inside the brain right now is the general state of the patient observed by the doctor. So the information that we are collecting in real time once the microrobot is in a certain position in the brain is highly valuable, and it can tell us a lot, not only about the cartography of the brain, but also the mapping of the brain, but it can also give us a lot of information, physiological information of the pathology itself, of cancer tissue itself, of the microenvironment in which we are, of the brain itself, all that information that today has a huge question mark because we do not know and we cannot intervene and we cannot obtain that data in real time. That is huge. So as I was saying, the microrobot is at the heart of the technology. That also comes with the skull cap that is used for the insertion of the microrobot, and that protects the brain while it's inside the operating room, and when the microrobot is actually performing the treatment outside of the operation room, thus freeing time from the operation room. And MOM, which is the operational platform that allows for the surgeon to integrate the imagery to read to be connected to the microrobot, to pilot it, to intervene, to interact with it while it's operating inside the brain. So yes, it can get a little noisy. And so these three aspects compose the entire offer. And MUM, this console, this platform itself, which is a little bit the brain of the microrobot, is of high and incredible value to us too.
Thank you very much for that. Very interesting, also very valuable application. Not only the immediate application they have, but if I understand, this can actually help with future research, future solutions. Once we start looking at the data that you can start gathering with this approach. So that's very, very interesting, and I really hope that in a few years we'll be able to set the new standard for
we look forward to it.
diagnosis and understanding of well, brain tumors and I access other parts of the brain, I anticipate. Let's talk about, or take the chance to talk about how, well, funding is very important for this kind of technology. And let's talk a bit about how, well, let's say your investor relations strategy, how that started out. If you could say a few words to how you are looking to get investment, or what kind of initiatives you've been looking at.
All right. So it's very interesting, it's crucial, and as all entrepreneurs know, if you don't have the funds for it, it's not happening. So you can try bootstrap, and we are experts at that. But at the end of the day, when you want to put a microrobot to treat brain tumors and to treat all pathologies along a precision scale, then you're going to need the funds for it. So we estimated our needs, and at the beginning we started, it was self-funded for a couple of years by Bertrand. Bertrand Duplat, who is the founder, who is a specialist in robotics, who has a 35 years plus career in robotics and in 3D and in IT. He founded and sold companies all along the scope, and one particularly to Dassault Systèmes in 2005. So he self-funded for the first year and a half, say, and then when our needs started widening a little bit more, we started a business angels round, a friends and family seed round, where we looked around our friends and then our connections, our immediate connections, and a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further. And let's just say that this round extended into 3 years of funding through a method called BSAs, so safe mechanism. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's basically a warrant where you don't have to decide on the value of your company, on the price of your share, until a later stage. And it allows you to have immediate funding. And for young companies, especially in the tech industry, in biomedical or medtech, it's the perfect mechanism. I think it was founded in the U.S. and then converted in France. But it basically allows you to access the funds immediately without having to set a price for your share. We've been on that method for the past 3 years now. We collected a little less than 1 million, and it helped us fund the robotics. So today we proved that micro-assembling a micro-robot, all the different components of this micro-robot, putting them together. So it's going to be a semi-autonomous micro-robot, and microfabrication is a huge challenge, and micro-assembling is a huge challenge. And so nothing has been done at this scale where the fabrication process or the assembling is automatized. Everything you're doing by hand. So it all has to be created basically from scratch. And this is what our teams are doing, are extremely complementary and extremely incredible teams. Have been doing for the past 3 years, and so it's validating the robotics, validating that it can move, validating that it can go ahead, that it can pivot, that everything adds to the 3D movement and flexibility of it. So it's proving that the robotics works basically. And then from there, we're now going into a phase of preclinicals. And preclinical means all of the regulatory process starts now, basically, because every step you take now has to be explained and excused and later on. So our animal tests will be starting beginning of next year. This past year we started ex vivo, so we first began with hydrogel models of the brain and then explanted brains, and now we're moving to our first tests of biocompatibility at the end of this month, and then next month we'll be going into our first animal tests. So with this 1 million, initial 1 million helped us to fund until now. The next phase is going to be funded with a round A of 7 million that we need for the next 3.5 years of preclinicals, and then we expect 2 years of clinicals that then take us to the approvals and the commercialization. We imagine, because of the pathology we chose, that we can benefit from fast tracks, especially for the clinical phase, that are going to be very precious in terms of time and money consumption, basically.
Okay, so you have 7 million, you said, to raise?
Yes, 7 million to raise in our Series A.
Okay.
Yes, it's going to be big work. No, so we were very hesitant to take on VCs for a long time. Because this is a conversation that has to be had, especially with entrepreneurs. I mean, a VC has a different calendar, right? The rounds are shorter. They need an economic show up in 3 years. So return on investment, and or there's some that take the risk and go long and invest in longer research and development phases, but they're very few. And the risks that they assess they have to be very low if it's going to be in a long term. Here we're on the higher part of the scale for everything, in terms of time, in terms of risk, in terms of innovation, and in terms of outcome also, of potential also. We're on that high part of the scale the whole way around. So to be able to communicate this to the VCs at the beginning takes a little more work. So as we go ahead, and as the robotics is proven, and as different technological milestones have been met, this gives us oil, and it allows us to communicate to the VCs in a different way. Also, public funding. Public funding is a huge resource that we haven't really tapped into yet, so we count on really tapping into it also for the 7 million. We don't count the public funding and, for example, the H2020s or the European grants or national grants yet in our 7 million plan. They're that little extra that are gonna help us push even further. But we've benefited from, for example, collaborations with the BPI or grants with the BPI here in France. So there are things that we've tapped into, and others that we're leaving for a little bit later
in the game. So you are a member of, let's say, the InvestHorizon community, right? So it could be interesting, again, thank you very much for your story. It's really interesting to see how you have a great idea with great potential, but then you have the hurdles of having a great idea with great potential, right? Especially in this sector. So it could be interesting to first understand how you became aware of the InvestHorizon Accelerator.
Very simply, actually. We've managed to, somewhat miraculously, gather around us a team of incredible say advisors, friends, and it was one of them that received an email from somebody passing by and was like, hey, look at this, and sent us the email, forwarded it to us. And we were like, okay, we have 3 days to send in the application. Do we do it? Do we not do it? Had a million things going on. We did it a little bit last minute, and it got accepted, which shows to the very charitable and the very forward-seeing commission of InvestHorizon, and we were very happy it got accepted. Yeah.
Great. So so you applied in a cutoff. You got through the evaluation step, and so you got eligible for the services, right?
Exactly.
Just a refresher: the services that the program offers is webinars, boot camps, coaching. And in particular, you also took part in the COCF coaching, which is a particular part of coaching component, which is geared towards helping companies improve the investment readiness level and exchange between each other.
Absolutely.
Could you say a couple of words to your experience in this program?
Yeah, so for us we didn't know what to expect since it was very last minute, and all of a sudden we were in the middle of moving offices and a lot was happening at that time. We opened our mailbox once and the email of, yeah, congratulations, you're part of the InvestHorizon. We were like, yes, okay, what is this? And so we went to look into more detail, and turns out it wasn't really the webinar parts, because that was later down the road. It was more the real sense of community that comes with the InvestHorizon plan and everything that they prepare for you carefully and mindfully for that week you share with them. That was really something unique in this kind of industry. So basically they had hand-picked companies that were similar to ours, even though they were later down the road. So it was very interesting for us in an early stage to be able to look ahead and say, okay, so this is where they're going, this is what they do, does that adapt to us? Can we fit into their shoes? Or is that interesting for us or not? So the exchanges were super interesting. And then the COCF methodology, we got in also there miraculously, because the COCF methodology basically requires you to present a challenge. So with a coach, you present your company to them, and they say, okay, so to me, your biggest challenge is this. So I think it would be interesting if we propose to all these CEOs who come to who come to InvestHorizon, or either COOs or CEOs, to get them all to think tank, to brainstorm on your challenge. So basically you're giving out your problem, your baby, you're taking it away from you and putting it in the middle of the table and saying, all right, tell me what's wrong with it. And so they'll come, the community comes with an incredibly, how do you say, bienveillant, with an incredibly,
welcoming / accepting.
Accepting, yeah. And yeah, but it's more than that. The attention that they put on you is actually very positive, and they want you to make it through, and they want to help you, and they want to find solutions. So everybody comes together and really thinks about your challenge, and then gives proposals and actually helps you solve it, or gives you solutions and tells you how to implement them. And so the whole COCF methodology is based on this exchange inside the community to overcome a hurdle that maybe either they never had, or they had and they're taking off from their experience to make your life easier, which is always a great gain of time and extraordinary. But it's what stood out the most for me particularly was that sense of community. That is very hard when in an entrepreneurial context, you're not competition. And they're all working together with their combined probably 70 plus years of experience to help you through your challenge and through your problem. So that was very interesting.
Thank you very much. I would say we have 1 minute for questions. Just before we wrap up,
yeah.
What would be your key takeaways from the program, from your participations? Your main 3 key takeaways. 3
takeaways, all right. The first one, what we were saying till now, was the community. So to build relations all across your community, all across your sector, if it's medtech, biotech, e-health, or whatever it is, to build bridges, to make people's lives easier, because a hand shook in one direction will bring another 10 in the other. So really the fact of making other people's lives easier always brings back. Karma is incredible in that way. From the email sent from somebody, hey, look what they're doing, why don't you try it, to actually, yeah, what's your challenge, let's think about it together. Or even the context exchange session, because at the end we were like, okay, we need BAs in Europe that can put more than 100K, who knows some? And so really there's a context exchange session where they're like, yep, and you have 50 people who've raised their hands around you, and so you say, wow, okay, I could have never accessed these people or these names if I didn't have a personal intro from somebody that knows them personally and who also knows what my challenge is. So they're going to suggest the right person for me, right? So that real sense of community is incredible.
Okay, thank you very much. If you want to access, you can check online for InvestHorizon, do an application. Can we have one question from the audience?
Can we have one question from the audience?
Okay, we can also discuss later on. We'll be available if you have any
we'll
questions.
Be here a little bit longer. So
thank you very much for your time, and thank you for sharing your experience.
Absolutely,
Thanks very much.
Thank you.